but it does have like, it is a really nice design. I think when you have that end result, it's just really pretty to stick on a paper. And I'm talking about using it here with our art journal, but it's something you can use with any book, right? And kind of, you can paint it or decorate it, you make it, add to it. But I think it is a really kind of, there are definitely more complicated patterns too. But this one I thought was just really nice, that little heart that goes on the corner. Okay. We're starting off with that square piece of paper, and the correct way to do it is the pattern sign up if you want the pattern exposed. But what I'm going to do is fold it into a triangle. So I have my square paper, and I'm just going to fold it into a triangle one direction, and crease it, and then fold it in a triangle the other direction and crease it. And then I'm going to take a moment and just kind of fold it in half. So those 3 folds are the base fold. That's what is kind of starting our bookmark, folding it into a triangle and then folding it into like a square. It's folding that square down straight across. So we have that fold line in the very center of our bookmark. And so once I have it folded in half this way, I've done my triangle folds. I'm doing that fold paper in half. So I'm going to take that top layer, not the whole thing, not both layers, but I'm going to take that top layer and fold it up till it meets that top line, that center line. And I'm just going to crease it, right? So I'm not doing that with my bottom paper. I'm leaving it the way it is, but that top layer, I'm folding it up, right? So once I've folded in half, I've done that top layer folded in half. I'm going to open it up. And so on my folded paper, we have that center fold, right? That's going straight across. We have that center fold, and then we have that triangle fold that's going across both of them. And so what I'm going to do, what I found is the easiest way. And if someone has found another way that kind of helps with this step too, definitely jump in and share it. So we have our folds, right? We have that triangle fold, one direction, the triangle fold, the second direction. And then, so what we're going to do is, this was actually really helpful. Take the corners, like I'm going to start on my right side, and I'm going to take those 2 corners and bring them together.
Okay.
And then on the other side, I'm going to take those 2 corners and bring them together. So we have that triangle. Okay. So we have that triangle fold, that X fold, and we're just taking 2 corners and bringing it together, and then those other 2 corners and bringing it together. So we have that triangle piece, or that triangle shape is what's left. So that next step is taking that top flap. We're not taking all those layers here. We're taking that top flap and we're lifting it up, right? Because what we're doing now is taking those 2 corners on that top and we're bringing them together in the center, right? And so it's basically kind of folding along that flap that we did in the very beginning when we were doing that half fold, right? So I'm taking the corner here and bringing it up to reach the top of my triangle, right? And I'm going to crease it. And then I'm taking that corner on the other side and bringing it up to reach the top of my triangle, right? So those 2 corners are now touching and they're right up there with that very top of the triangle. Okay. So we have this little flap that we've started. So we have that triangle, right? And we have, if you look at the bottom, you have like a bottom layer of paper. You have that middle layer of where it folds, right? And then that top layer of paper. And we're going to work with that top layer now. We're not going to pay attention to the others, but we're working with that top layer right now. And so what I'm going to do is open it up. So I'm taking the bottom of that top layer, that center bottom of that top layer, and I'm bringing it up to touch the top of my triangle, right? And so what that does is that brings the corners of my triangle, that top layer, it brings those corners of the triangle up to the top as well. Okay. So I'm bringing that bottom center up to the top of my triangle, and I'm taking those corners on the top and bringing them up to my triangle as well. So now I have this straight line at the top. Do that one more time. We have my triangle here, and I'm going to take that first layer of paper. I'm not doing anything with the rest of the layers, but that first layer, that top layer, and I'm taking that center point of the top layer and bringing it up to the point of my triangle, right? The top point of my triangle. And when I do that, I notice that the corners of my triangle are also wanting to come up there too. So we'll let them come on up. We'll bring those corners, those ends up to that top of the triangle. So those two corner pieces that were down here are now up here at the top. Okay. And so we have this flap that's kind of been made now. And this flap is going to make the top of our heart, right? We can see that one side has the split in it and the other side doesn't, right? This is what we're going to be working with now. Okay. So now that I have that split here, I have it folded up, my flap, I'm going to take the corners of that flap and push them in, right? So what's happening now, we're folding it in, sorry, not pushing it in, folding it in. So that top line of that flap, we're bringing to the center of our triangle, folding it in. So we had that flap that we started with, right? We're folding that flap in half. So we have a little smaller flap, right? And then we're going to take the corners, the very corners of each of that little flap, and we're going to push it down, right? So I'm taking the corner of that little flap and pushing it down to that center line between the flap and creasing it, right? So let's do that again. We have our big flap that we made, right? We took our big triangle and brought those corner pieces up to the tip top of the triangle, right? So we have this little flap here, this. So what I'm going to do is fold that flap in half. Okay. So we have a smaller flap, and that small flap is going to make the top of our heart. Okay. So I'm taking those corners of that small flap. Right now they're sticking up, these corners. I'm taking the corners and I'm pushing the corners inside. So it's opening that flap up, right? That corner is going in, and it's opening that flap up. And then the other side, that corner is going in. So that flap is open now, right? So you can see it's making that kind of, starting to make that top arch shape for the heart. So once we've opened that flap up, you'll see on the bottom, there's a split, right? And where that split is, we're just going to fold it, right? Fold that corner, the inside corner of the split down, right? So we're opening that split up a little more. So now we have that heart shape. Those little arches for the top are starting to appear. So once you've folded that, you can open it up and you have that heart shape. If you want to, you can kind of soften that point a little bit just by bending that tip down just a little bit. So it doesn't have to be super pointed for sure. You have kind of a softer arch. Yeah. I know this fold is a little different, and working on a piece of paper that's not in our journal is a little different from what we've done. But hopefully, you've been able to kind of create a little heart bookmark, or a bookmark of some sort.